So, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Jonathan D'Angelo, a.k.a. Johnny D. And as you can tell, we are live on Facebook with my girl, Katana Robinson, who is a fan fiction author, well-known on the website that she posts on. What's the website, Katana? Shout out right quick.
It is called fanfiction.net, and you can find me under I and I Roshan.
Word. And we have the wonderful Charlie Rocket here to join us again, second week in a row. I'm hyped. So today, guys, if you don't know, we are here to talk about Nicole Arbour's This Is America remake cover. What are we calling it?
Women's cut? Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Women's edit or something like that?
Women's cut. Edit? Yeah, the women's cut. The women's cut. So, right quick, because we're on Facebook Live, I got my whole screen shared. So we're gonna play it for those who haven't seen it yet. So give me a second to pull that up over here.
I know they're excited.
So here this is. And there's actually already been controversy about it. Nicole, and I'll tell you guys what Nicole said, but here's the video. Here's 3 minutes of this.
This was my vocals, alright?
Oh, what happened?
We just want to be pray that's the
She's gonna sue me for playing her shit. It doesn't want to play, like it doesn't even want to play right.
Why we even trying? Don't deserve
Can you believe it?
I'm about to hit it. Live a life this way. We just want to be pretty that's the goal. We just want his money. Get him and be home. This is America. Don't catch you climbing up. Don't catch you climbing up. Cause they'll get you slipping up. Hey, come on. This is America. We'll say North America. Look how we living now. The boys could be tripping now. This is America. Got rape in my area. You got a drain? Yeah. The roof is getting to your cuz. Hey, this is America. Don't catch you climbing up. Don't catch you climbing up. Cause they'll get you hoeing up. Yeah, I'ma go into this. Yeah. Crew a hoe, what's your pick? Yeah. You got an idea? Don't make it with a Yeah. I'm too bold like We're all too old like We're not allowed to age right. What the fuck? You go tell somebody. You go tell somebody. You go tell somebody. This is America. Don't catch you shining now. Don't catch you shining now. Look what you're doing now. Oh, this is America. Smile for the camera.
Pretty sure after the 1 minute mark, people are going, what?
That pin will take care of ya. Look how I'm spitting truth out. I'm so trendy. Yeah, I wear friendly. Yeah, I'm so sexy. I'm gonna get it. Yeah, watch me move. Yeah, these are my titties. That's my tool. I'm being childish. Can't be no. This shit's fire. But you knew though. Get a man, get a man, get a man. Make a fan, make a fan, make a fan. I gotta give up my dreams. Rather be the Taliban.
Not sure everyone's gonna get the Taliban line. I was referencing the female fighters who've been kicking the Taliban's butt. And I wouldn't want to be the Taliban because I'm gonna get my butt kicked. Anyways. One, two, three, get down.
It's tap dancing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, what?
Somebody they
What? I was a little confused by that. That tap dancing confused the shit out of me.
It paused several times, but
You're just a woman in this world. You're just a ballless girl. You're just a villain if you're strong. Love or ambition is wrong. No one believes you. Just stop trying. You're a bitch, but you're weak if you're crying.
It says, if I were a guy, you wouldn't be asking yourself who wrote that. So, that's the end of that. All right, so that's the 4th time I've watched that.
I don't even understand the ending quote. If I were a guy, you would be asking yourself who wrote that.
You wouldn't be asking
Trash.
yourself. You wouldn't be asking
I
yourself.
feel like she wrote it because she's kind of trash.
Oh,
So I do it myself.
I don't have my soundboard, but if I did, I'd be hitting the shots fired. But so okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So let's dissect this for a second. I exited out of the video. I'm not gonna pull it back up, but let's dissect this for a second. So Nicole Arbor came out and said that this is the woman's cut. This is for women, right? So why do you guys feel like that's not the case?
Well, it lacks any sort of depth. It lacks creativity, severely lacks creativity. There's nothing in the video that would allude to anything, it being even remotely informative at all. You know, in the Childish Gambino video, you could see a lot of different things going on in the background.
Yeah.
You know, you saw police brutality. You saw the way how the guns are cared for more than the actual person that's shot by the gun. You saw all these different little things. Even in certain panels of it, you saw people on their cell phones that could possibly allude to the bystander effect, where, you know, people just want to just stand there and just film something going on and not actually doing anything to help. You know what I mean? With her video, it's like, what is this? What is this cry for attention that you're trying to do? Like, I'm not understanding anything that's going on in the video. And it's just sad. It's like you could have done that in any other way that would have been creative and unique to you. But the fact that you wanted to ride on this gravy train and did it so poorly, it's like, stop it.
What do you think, Charlie?
Oh Lord.
Wow.
You know, yeah, like I completely agree. I think a lot of the stuff that was happening in the background, like, what did it really have to do in regards to like a message? Like, how is that showing a message? Like, I almost got like maybe one message. Like, I get it, like, women are sexualized all the time. And then they're showing that, like, oh, cheerleaders and then dancers and then this, but it's like just repeated the same message over and over again. And in addition to that, I mean, clearly she's not like a singer or anything like that, but it felt like a joke, you know?
Yeah.
Like, even her facial expressions were, like, I know that Childish Gambino was like making faces, but it wasn't like, I'm making fun of this. Like, that's what her face was doing. And immediately, like, as soon as she was on screen, so it like triggered the I'm already annoyed of this video thing in my head. And so it any chance of it having any kind of meaning already left before it even started. Yeah, and you know what? Going back to the faces thing, she's there making all these weird faces and whatnot to sort of allude to Childish Gambino's facial expressions without realizing that his expressions actually have meaning behind it.
Yeah.
He's imitating a very popular back in the day minstrel character, and even the way how he poses and points the gun at the guy in the chair is the same way how the character points, you know, at whatever it is that it was pointing at. So the fact that she's trying to make these faces without any sort of reasoning behind it, or anything that has anything to do with women's rights or just anything, it had nothing. I don't even know what else to say to sort of add to it. It was absolute trash. Like, go back to the drawing board. She already deleted all the comments, or she disabled all the comments that were on the YouTube page.
She did. Yes,
she disabled all her likes, all of that stuff, because she even knew that it was trash. Just take it down. Just stop.
Yeah. So go ahead, Charlie. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You know what it felt like to me? It felt like because you said she's imitating the same faces but without any context. It felt like on Black Panther when they're trying to bring back Black Panther back to life, and they start chanting, and then like colonizer over here is just like gonna start too. Like, don't join us. Like, you don't know what you're talking
Yeah, then
about.
Baku looked at him like, what are you doing?
Join us because you're here.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it felt like to me.
So I went on. Okay, so I went. So since we're on that part of the topic, I went on Nicole Arbour's page, and she did a Instagram live video last night where she says that she starts off. She's like, I've never done this before, but I just want to apologize for making the video. And she's like, yeah, right, fuck that, I'm just playing, I'm not apologizing for it, I did what I felt like, I did what I wanted to do, I felt it was right, etc., etc. She went on to say that people are being racist under her Hi Griffin sponsor, Dante Griffin, author of Crimson Despair. Had to shout that out. But she goes on to say that she was feeling the racial, like she deletes any racial comments that she receives, which I don't know who's hitting her up with racism, but she deletes any racial comments that she receives. She's deleting any negative comments. And one guy went on there and was trying to tell her, like, you know, we feel like you're just borrowing a concept to get likes and to get fame. And she's like, no, that's not the case. I was trying to actually shout out women. But I feel like she's a bit insensitive, and I will pull up the past just slightly to prove my point. She had an interview in 2015 where she was invited on The View to talk about her Dear Fat People rant on YouTube, where she talks negatively about people who are overweight, and Whoopi Goldberg and really got into her as Whoopi Goldberg always does, and she really didn't I don't think she felt the gravitational weight that her actions have, because one of the hosts, I can't remember her name, but it was one of the main hosts, said that comedy is subjective, and for those who don't subject to your comedy, they're going to find it offensive. However, I do feel like maybe Nicole didn't think about the consequences of her actions this time, just like she didn't before. And I will say, since you brought up Black Panther, this is the same person who comedically tweeted that Black Panther is to black people what Ellie Woods getting into Harvard was for blonde girls. So basically she said that Black Panther is to black people what Legally Blonde was for blonde women. And yeah.
I'm wondering what sort of atrocities blonde women went through back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering to even make that. What lack of blonde women are in movies.
Yeah, like
blonde woman in every freaking movie. Jesus.
And she says it jokingly, but I feel like maybe there should be a level of, not so much, she's not bad with censorship. I mean, minus her, rants about black dick, but she doesn't. I think she doesn't have a sense of sensitivity. Like, I feel like she doesn't have a black homegirl to be like, nah, girl, I don't think you should do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's there.
Yeah, check her real fast.
Yeah. Like, do you feel like the video lacked sensitivity? You know what I mean? Or, you know what I mean? Like, do you feel like the video lacked some sense of sensitivity or empathy to her female counterparts that she didn't really...
It lacked a lot. This is America. I'm just going to start off with that phrase alone. It's a complete melting pot of so many different cultures and ideas and experiences. So I felt that her woman's edit, so to speak, only focused on certain types of women and not necessarily those that had some sense of inclusion. You know what I mean? So perfect example, I'm a Caribbean-born woman. I'm born from Jamaica, if you can't already tell by my accent. And in Jamaica, we are taught that as a female, as a woman, you have to be strong.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you read your books and that you're just smart. If anything, be smarter than your male counterpart. Definitely. Because it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And there's one scene, I believe you mentioned it earlier, that it's like a guy or something that kicks over some building blocks and then hands her a Barbie doll and whatnot. We don't get no damn Barbie dolls in Jamaica. No, we get a book. And if we don't want to read, we get the Switch. You know what I mean? We that's not a dread. And I'm not saying that it's just only conducive to Caribbean American women. That's that's most cultures.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. I didn't see anything being reflected in terms of the Middle Eastern women, those of a Muslim background,
Yeah.
where there are certain aspects relating to the hijab and, you know, the other types of headwear that they have to wear, and how there are certain consequences, so to speak, if their hair is shown in public. I didn't see anything like that. All I saw was, oh my God, you know, you got to be pretty all the time and you're not allowed to age. Well, no, that's bullshit, because there's a whole movement going around ageism where it's sort of encouraging women to sort of show their grace and, you know, just age beautifully and age gracefully and with wisdom and all of that. So, you know, it's just a lot of just things not touched on that she just completely ignored and just sort of focused on herself without doing any sort of research. And at the end of the video, I was sort of I don't know what I was expecting, but I was sort of hoping she would put something informative. You know, at the end of all this crap, at least one something, anything, nothing. Which tells me that she only made the video for likes. It has no substance, it has no depth, it has no thought pattern, it has nothing in the background in lieu of her ranting and dancing to even suggest to her audience, like, yo, this is the message. There was no message. None.
Yeah. And talking about that scene you were saying where he kicks over the building blocks, hands her a Barbie, I think
well,
for a majority of women,
not to interrupt, it was, so he kicks over the blocks and he hands her a cup full of makeup, and yeah, it was a cup full of makeup. Yeah, and like a cell phone or something like that. But yeah, go ahead. But it's the same concept. Go ahead.
I gotta say, either way, for any women outside of any minority women, I think when education is taken away, you're not given something else in return. They're not saying like, and then do this. They're just saying you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, you were talking about women who can't show their hair and do this, that, and other. They're not handing them makeup and saying, but you can look pretty. And they're not handing them cell phones so that they can communicate. They're saying you don't get to have anything. And I feel like that whole scene is only really for white women, just like a lot of the scenes in the whole video. And I mean, Nicole can only speak to her experiences, so she can only really speak for white women. So because of that, you're taking something that was so monumental for the Black community and meant so much to Black people, and then you're saying, yeah, but white women have problems too. and you're diminishing all of that. And you call it for all women, but it's not. It's for white women because that's all that you know. And I get maybe that you might like assuming that she meant the best intentions ever. She meant to make this big movement for women. Maybe you should probably have somebody else do it, you know, like you
something.
As a white
or
woman,
maybe do some research.
Right, exactly. Talk to, like you said, get you a Black friend who can check you real fast. Like, Annie, talk to somebody. All those women, not all those like 3 women who were minorities in the video. Maybe ask them some questions instead of just being like, hey, do that.
Yes, something. I mean, Google is out there for a reason.
Yes.
You can type and search, like, what are the statistics of this, that, and the third? Do I know anyone that matches that? Oh, I do. Hey, what's up? What's going on? What do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? And then instead of riding on the gravy train of Donald Glover, do something that is specific and unique to you.
Make an individual message where you're not diminishing and taking away from a huge movement everybody's super excited about and happy about and means so much to us. And then you just like crap all over it and say, I'm making one too. White women matter too. Like,
so okay,
lady.
Okay, so playing devil's advocate. Do you feel like there were no issues in the video that you could relate with? Because there was the roofie one. I mean, date rape is a thing.
Yeah.
There was a scene, where the same guy who carried off the girl he date raped was carrying her off somewhere else. I did see that. And I guess that could symbolize kidnapping, sex trafficking, maybe. I'm trying to defend her, guys. but I mean, okay, okay. Is there any issues you feel like directly correlate besides the rape? Besides the rape, do you feel like there are any issues in the video that directly correlate to all women? To all women, like every woman of every race has gone through this outside of rape, because that's like the more. Not to discredit the traumas that victims go through, but that's a more obvious no shit thing. You know what I mean? Like but is there anything else there? Like she did mention the NFL cheerleaders, and they get paid like $800. There was a check for $800 to the NFL cheerleaders. There was the breastfeeding issue.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like those were, validated? Like, the girl taking drugs to feel better about herself after taking the selfie, Like, do you feel like, no, yes, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the breastfeeding thing is a huge problem. Of course, there's such a stigma behind it. Like, don't breastfeed in public, and oh my God, your boobs out. But then everybody's like, okay with these giant Victoria's Secret posters and like whatever else. And of course, everybody puts so much pressure on women to be pretty, or now you're too sexy, and now you're too homely, or now you're whatever. Don't give up. And of course, she mentioned you have to get a husband and then have a family and then give up your dreams. And that's kind of like a really big pressure that people put on women. So all those things are real things, but it comes down to the same thing as the feminist movement in 2018.
Yeah.
Like, it is, women are protesting for these rights for women, but they aren't here for Black women. When we have a problem with all like the Black Lives Matter situation, nobody's touching really on all the Black women who are attacked with police brutality and with all these other issues, Black women who are disappearing. I don't see the feminist movement like looking for them, like helping them. I don't see them standing with Native Americans and just any other minorities. They're just saying we want rights for women. And I'm like, yeah, but if women get rights, I'm still Black and still don't have rights for Black. So where's that at? Like, it's still missing out on all the minority issues. So then you're missing out on me. You're only talking about white women.
And it still goes back to a lack of conversation with everybody.
Yeah.
Even with Nicole, like there's this obvious lack of disconnect that she portrays in the video, without really having that deep, intimate conversation about people who are considered minorities. Like, she goes on almost all her videos and talks about Black dick all day, how much she loves it and how everybody should interracial date. Like, I get it. I've been in an interracial relationship. I'm sure plenty of people have. But why not talk about some of the issues that people face when it comes on to, talking about racism and talking about discrimination, and especially when it comes on to the minority, and especially when it comes on to Black women? Talk about some of the challenges that Black women face when it comes on to working, in the workplace. How sometimes we are faced with having to change our hair because they don't, people don't like to see 4C hair. It's considered unkempt. Or they have to cut off their dreads because they don't like it because it's considered unkempt. Or if we're, walking down the street and we're getting stopped for jaywalking or something of that nature, do some sort of inclusion. I don't know what else to say to her except the whole video was just trash. Redo it, something, hide under a rock, something, but...
Well, I'm going to go to the comments right quick. So Jeffrey Troyer said, I don't think we can give Nicole crap for talking about white girl issues when Gambino's This Is America was focused on Black issues. The only thing I have an issue with that comment, Jeffrey, is the fact that and Jeffrey being my brother, so I can trash talk him is perfectly fine. But the only issue I have with that is Nicole said it was for all women. So if it was a white woman thing, she could have said that, or she could have just said women and just kind of like we would have figured it out. But when you say all women, like this is an all woman problem, and then you don't encompass all the issues or majority of the or the major issues that all women face, then your message becomes misinterpreted and misunderstood because you're not for all women at that point. You're for white women, but you put all women under that white woman problem label, I guess you could say. And I think that's where the issue is with that. And Jeffrey also said, why not use an established platform to have your message heard or messages accomplished one way or another? And that was response to Vader Maxi saying that she was basically it's a matter of trying to shift focus and riding Gambino's fame. Not to say women don't go through some shit, but to ride someone else's tailcoat instead of blazing your own path is trash. And he also said that her video is the equivalent of why don't we have a White History Month? He came for her. But so that argument is going down in the comments right there. but I mean,
I wish I could see the comments right now. I can't see them.
No, but it's the fact that this is my thing. This is my thing about it. I can't really speak on women's issues, and I'm not going to for so many obvious reasons. But what I do know, this is what I do know. So I know that in the background, the video started off with the black woman, and we're gonna call her the token because she was one of like two in the video. But it was the black woman that was breastfeeding. That's how the video. And then she took a screenshot of the black woman breastfeeding, and then the police showed up to arrest her. And the black woman, they were trying to take her, and they spent the whole video in the background. The black woman was running away because the police were trying to take her baby for breastfeeding, which. I mean, nah, because I don't think that their child service is going to come for you for breastfeeding in public. I think maybe she meant something else there. I feel like I agree with you guys. I feel like that she's not encompassing problems that encompass major problems that encompass all women. But that's where I have to ask you, as black women, do you feel like do you feel like everybody has problems, and then at some point those problems trickle down and branch off into white people problems and, you know, black people problems, Hispanic women problems? Like, do you feel like at some point we actually have our own separate problems from white people? And I mean, I know everybody's like, well, yeah, because racism is a thing. Yeah, but do you feel like black women, because you listed it, but do you legitimately feel like black women have different problems from white women? And was that the problem with this video? Is that because white women have different problems, it's Nicole missed her mark because she didn't address the problems of her culturally diverse audience, her culturally diverse sisterhood, if that makes sense.
You want to take that one?
Sure. Yes. Okay. So black women, because that's who I can speak for, like off bat, definitely have different problems than white women do. She talked a lot about beauty standards, and you have to be this, and you have to do this, and, you know, beat your face, and blah, blah. But those standards are completely different for black women. Because if you go on Google right now and you type in beautiful woman, sexy woman, cute woman, then it's just going to be all white women. It is going to be all white women, and you just scroll. Oh, it's not a black woman. Oh, no, it's not. Keep scrolling, and then you have to find the minorities, you know? Like, and then it's like maybe Asian women or something, maybe Latina. Like, it takes forever to find somebody that looks like us. So our beauty standards are more than just we have to put makeup on, we have to look a certain way. It is a lot of people do not think black women when you think beauty right off the bat. In addition to that, we don't get to see a representation of ourselves in a lot of things, like movies, like we were talking about Black Panther versus Legally Blonde earlier. We don't see ourselves in magazines hardly. And, you know, it's getting better, meaning that there's a token person with a curly fro every now and then, you know, like every Black woman you see, oh, let's throw one in with natural hair so nobody can say anything real fast. But we don't get to see a representation of us that is meant to say Black women are beautiful. So that beauty standard is way deeper for us than it would be for white women who get to see beautiful white women everywhere they go. Every guy is like cool with white women, you know, but then all we see on TV is guys going, well, I'm not down with natural hair. I'm not down with this. Or in the workplace, like you said earlier, there's so many strict guidelines for our hair to be considered acceptable, work acceptable. Whereas what are the limits for white women? They can't dye it a certain color sometimes. Like that's a completely different scenario, you know? And we're just taught that we have to do twice as much to get half. Like you mentioned that earlier, and they mention it on Scandal like every 2 seconds. That's what we have to do. We have to work. We have to be strong. We have to be beautiful. We have to do twice as much work than Nicole has to do just to be in her little video, one token woman breastfeeding. And so that can't be a representation of us. Like that's not all that we're about, and that's not the only struggle we got.
And also,
true, and I agree. Like even with my own experience, just my own experiences real quick, just growing up in Jamaica in like this cultural melting pot. We have African Jamaicans, we have white Jamaicans, we have Hispanic Jamaicans, Chinese Jamaicans, we have all different people. So it's not more so of a racism issue, it's more of a colorism issue, which is completely different and separate. But it's since I've been living here in America, I've noticed, you know, I've heard of the word racism and really get to experience what it means. Like I've been called the N-word to my face. I've been discriminated at work. My most recent incident was when I was living in Alaska and I worked on posts on Fort Wainwright. I'm not going to drop any names, but the person I was working for definitely put in my PIP report that I acted, quote unquote, overconfident and know-it-all. And there were some
tasted like racism.
Allusion to, yeah, like there was some allusion to my accent and my cultural background. And, you know, when I tried to explain to her that I wasn't trying to be, you know, acting overconfident and, you know it all, it's just in my culture. Like I said before, we as women in general, we're taught to be confident in everything that we do. We're taught to walk a certain way and talk a certain way. We're not taught to be weak or appear meek, or else we won't be able to get the job done. And this lady flat out looked me in the eye and said, well, we don't like that around here. So that was one of a couple of incidences where I realized that my skin tone and my cultural background can literally mean the difference between having a job and not having a job. And I started thinking to myself, you know, if I were a white woman, would that same sentiment still be towards me, or would I be praised for it? You know, and it definitely, I'd end up losing the job, but it definitely placed in my mind that, you know, I will not be treated fairly most places I go. The company I work for now is great. It's awesome, and they have so many different walks of life and cultural backgrounds. But the other companies that I've worked for, specifically the one at Fort Wainwright, that one was definitely an eye-opener. So when it comes down to the question of, you know, are Black women treated differently than white women when it comes on to these certain topics, I really feel as though it just depends. It depends on the environment. It depends on who you are. It depends on how you react to things. Because a lot of times how we react to things can either contribute to the problem and sort of hinder, you know, your means of having a positive solution, or it can give you a negative solution, and it can give you even more problems. You know what I mean? So it just depends on our approach. It depends on how we go about obtaining information and sharing that information. Because I'll be the one to tell you right now, there are people right off the bat that when asked questions about, oh, you know, how does your hair grow like that and whatnot, Black women are the first ones to be like, oh, don't touch my hair. You don't need to ask no questions, nothing like that. Instead of being so defensive, which I can't even say I blame Black women because of all the shit that has probably gone in that woman's life. But we should probably try and like take a step back and be like, okay, how is this person asking the question? What are they asking specifically? And is it something that I can answer to reasonably? You know what I mean? How we approach a problem and how we solve the problem can say volumes about how we move forward as everybody, regardless if you're Black, white, Hispanic, regardless of your cultural background. It literally starts with our level of thinking, our critical thinking skills, and how we approach each issue. I think once we tackle that, then we can move forward finally as Americans.
Kind of a point to what you were saying just now. The reason why that's so difficult for me personally, because I do that a lot. I'm just like, oh yeah, my hair, yeah, you can touch it. But how often does that happen for us? Like after like the 1 millionth time, you're kind of like, okay, we're done. I'm not a sideshow. Like how much of that information could you get without personally going up to somebody and making it like if they're a creature you've never seen before? Mm-hmm. I know plenty about white women hair because that is the norm, Mm-hmm. All their products are right there in the front. They have everything like given to them right there, like if it's normal. And then we're to the side somewhere near the dog food where we gotta look for, oh, is this for my hair? And it's like 3 products, purposely making us feel like we are not belonging with them. So because of that, like, why is it that I know everything about your hair and everything possible when my hair is not even like yours, but you can't take 2 seconds to realize that you're making me feel like an outsider by touching my hair and saying, wow, so weird, feels just like a sheep, or like something really strange like that. To me, no, it feels like a human person. Thank you. After a while, all those microaggressions, they build up, and then you can't deal with that anymore. So like you said, I don't blame people for going off. I'm super patient. So I do try to react in a way that can bring understanding and education to people. But after a while, like they're going to have to just get over it, because the aggression or the me getting tired of somebody or frustrated by somebody is coming from them. It's not coming from me. It's coming from their actions to me. And my reaction is just natural, because after a while, if I keep holding it in, this is why we're going to self-destruct, like I have to be given that. But also another example of differences in white problems and Black problems. She had mentioned in the video, I'm a villain, or if you say anything, then you're labeled a bitch, and that's true for women, you get a little bit angry and somebody's like, oh, cat fight, or oh, she's bitch, blah, blah. But for Black women, right. But for Black women, the angry Black woman is a completely different woman. And we get that with the quickness.
True story.
Okay, that's not even like, we don't even have an attitude. We don't even snap at anybody, and we have that. You're passionate about anything in your angry Black woman. Whereas the bitchy thing comes in when maybe you're in a leadership role or something, and you are asking somebody to do something, or you're doing this, that, and other, and somebody's, she's a bitch because she's in charge of me, or she's a bitch because she has a slight aggression. Whereas Black women, we're already seen as angry before we even open our mouths. We're just expected to like approach people with anger, or we look scary or something, so I think it's a completely different issue. And she brings up all these issues for women that are just, now multiply that times 10, and then you got a minority. Like, so it really doesn't touch on our personal issues enough.
So
for me to accept this?
So like, okay, and I agree with you. So like going back to beauty standards. So the problem also I found was that every woman in the video was a fit or skinny, light skinned to Caucasian shaded woman. And I feel like that alone fucked up the video, because the one or two black women I saw, I think the breastfeeding mom stood out to me the most. But there might have been another black girl in there, but they were either caramel to white skinned. Like that was their shade level.
Like you could definitely find her shade in the Maybelline makeup section.
Yeah, like definitely. So like I feel like right there without color diversity, she missed her mark. I feel like maybe she thought she was being diverse, but I feel like her lack of I don't know, color spectrum representation, she's not gonna have she didn't have the darker skinned, women in there, and that alone felt like we were missing out, because the only black woman you had was the breastfeeding mom. And I feel like, that was a token thing. I do, because she was the only one like her in the entire video. And then you had, I think there was a Hispanic chick or two in there, an Asian chick or two, and then, a plethora of white women. I also feel like she missed her mark where it came to the fact that she had all the women were fit. Now, we all know Nicole Arbor hates fat people. Like, it's there, it's out there on the internet. Like, we know she hates fat people.
She said it.
She said it. Yeah, you're right. She said it. She hates fat
people. And people who are depressed.
Yeah, and people who are, So, and she loves black dick. But the thing is, like, I feel like you can't say that this is a woman's cut and then not have woman representation in the physical form. So you only have the white, you have the caramel to white skin women, and then all of them are skinny and fit. Like, I mean, I know this is a shot in the dark, but yeah, they were all, I'm not even gonna say that. But they were all skinny. They were all skinny or fit. You know what I mean? And there are thicker women out there. Hell yeah. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Oh, sundress season. Sundress season. But, there are thicker women out there. And I feel like she lacked representation on body type, because not every Hispanic woman is, Coke bottle shaped. Not every white woman is Coke bottle shaped. Not every black woman is Coke bottle shaped. I feel like she missed her mark there. Definitely. I feel like, when she said it was a woman's cut, I feel like she did not give women the physical representation that you guys are. Because even though she's against obesity, she still could have had women, because there are women who are 180, 190, 200 pounds, but they're in shape. Mm-hmm. They're just heavier, but they're in shape. I'm 200 pounds. I'm not fat. You know what I mean? And I know a male's body is different than a woman's body, but 200 pounds doesn't make you fat. You know what I'm saying? I've seen a woman who was 200 pounds and she looked like she'd kick my ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it doesn't, like, the weight representation, they don't, even if she didn't want the obesity. But I feel like she should have gave in even on that, because what about the women who are fat but trying to get skinny, but then here you come, Nicole Arbor, white Barbie shape over here, and she's looking at you like, well, I want to be like her, but she's dissing me instead of holding me up, so now I feel some type of way. You know what I mean? I feel like with her video, she should have included all shapes, all colors, all sizes, because that would have given her the diversity that she was indefinitely aiming for, given what her message was supposed to stand for.
And she could have done that on a creativity video. If she had used her own mind and her own ideas, she would have definitely been able to touch on those topics. But nah.
Yeah. And she missed out on an opportunity there, because with plus size women, or with the whole weight issue, that's huge in the community. Yeah. Like for women, eating disorders and things like that, that's huge when it comes to beauty standards. But because she doesn't have a plethora of women who are diverse, she's missing out on so many topics that would have benefited that message.
And that's assuming that the people that are in the video are her friends.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's definitely, casting calls that you put out that you specify exactly what it is that you want in the video. And the mere fact that, women who are considered on the obese scale, or, people who are suffering from bulimia or anything, any you can find anybody via a casting call. You mean to tell me that these are the only people that you could find on the casting call, that nobody else wanted to go in the video?
Yeah.
Because they were too
didn't
shy?
want to take place in this foolishness.
I mean, they wouldn't have known that it was foolishness beforehand, but it's like.
And going back to what you said, Charlie, about no, what you said, Katana, about the Muslim women and the hijabs. Like, I feel like, okay, so every woman plays a role in their religious background, whether whether they have more rights. Some religions give more rights and leeways to women than others. But I feel like she didn't even mention that. Which, except for when she was talking about she'd rather join ISIS than to be forced to be pretty or something like that.
Or Taliban or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Taliban, something like that. And she did a little like
giving up the dreams.
Yeah, she did a little like moment to self, like mental cloud bubble moment thing, where she like tried to explain that. Unnecessary, by the way, very unnecessary. But I feel like she should have indefinitely referenced religious and cultural roles that women play in society. I feel like she should have touched on, like, maybe she should have in the background had a Muslim woman being abused by her male counterpart, or a Jewish woman having to do work in the fields or whatnot, or maybe like a Christian woman having to deal with the pressures of Catholicism, something like that. Or even better, what she could have done if she really wanted to go there was, because I love dramatic effect. What she could have done was have like child molestation in the church, and have a little girl and a priest, and that touch on Christian culture,
or even like abortion or something.
Yes,
talking about
even abortion
for women.
That is a part of women's rights.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
She don't care.
She ain't got no kids.
All of these opportunities, and she missed the mark in every single one of them. But oh my God, likes
makeup.
Like, I think the one thing that really pissed me off about the video the most, what really like hit me, like, for y'all's sake, was she had a woman in the background that held up a sign that said voters' rights or right to vote or something like that, but the woman was dressed in a Puritan outfit. And I was like, but even when white women got the right to vote, black women didn't really get the right to vote, though. So it was like that out the gate, that let me know this is a white person issue. Like, this is a white woman problem.
Yeah.
This video is about white women. It has nothing to do with us. And then, of course, the video only furthered that. You know what I mean? But it hurt my feelings in a way, because it was like, I don't know if she knows. Because, I mean, let's be real. Nicole Arbor lives in America, but she's from Canada. And she said she went on her Instagram live account last night and was like, somebody asked her what the biggest news story is in Canada right now. And she said the biggest news story was that there was a flood happening in Eastern Canada, and this woman was filming her husband trying to get into the house to get their belongings, and he fell into the water, and they were laughing about it. And that's the biggest news story. Now in America, like just south of the border, we got a whole hell of a lot of shit going on. You know what I mean? And like, I feel like her not being from here, like, yeah, she hears what's on the news and she sees what's on TV, like, oh, live from America, black people getting killed in the street again. She's like, wow, not the black dick. I like that, but I feel like she doesn't know because she's not from here. Like, she hears about it and she lives here now because, the entertainment outlet is bigger here than it is where she's from. But I feel like she doesn't yet have a grasp on the issues, because if she did, she would know that in American history, Susan B. Anthony was for women's rights, but women whose husbands own land.
Yeah.
We'll put it like that. So like, Susan B. Anthony was all for women's rights, but it was certain women. You know what I mean? Just like the Constitution was all for men's rights, but it was certain men. And I feel like the fact that she had that in there was almost a spit in the face to black women as a whole, because it was like, yeah, we want the right to vote. And when Susan B. Anthony was protesting for white women's rights to vote, black women were like, so we just not going, but I breastfed your kid and I cleaned your house. You know what I mean? Like, like that was
in every way.
Like, I feel like that was a hit. Like, I feel like that was an accidental shot fired on black women because she did not do her cultural homework enough to know that that was not politically correct. Jeffrey said, to a degree, the expansion of the positive aspect of our culture is a good thing, but it's at times at the expense of cultural identity. Whatever aspect of facet is being embraced loses its cultural uniqueness and becomes a part of the whole. Cultural hubs are being lost in the name of assimilation. I don't have the 100% answer to whether that is good in the long term. Word. I feel you. I would not. I mean, like, cultural hubs are being lost in the name of assimilation. I agree with that, and he's going back and forth with Max because Maxie said the point was no
one can really definitively state that, you know, cultural assimilation, what it will lead to in, you know, 10 years down the line, because none of us have that insight. However, when it comes on to combating ignorance, you combat ignorance with information. It's as simple as that. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't say it's more so of a cultural assimilation type tactic per se, but the more you educate someone, the less ignorant someone becomes. And as long as the person is aware, and not just aware, but actively doing something to sort of make a positive change, then I believe that is a positive thing that we should be doing. You know what I mean? So to just keep yourself in the dark and just keep yourself in this bubble, it doesn't help you. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help the future generation. It certainly doesn't help my kids, and it won't help your kids. You know what I mean? So as long as we just put out the info, well, not even put out the information, seek information. And stop, you know, just stop being force-fed all these not what ifs, but all these ignorant statements and what this, that, and the third could mean and whatnot. Do some critical thinking. That is one thing I noticed, and not just America, but in a lot of countries, that with the introduction of social media and it being so hyped up, that we've stopped reading, we've stopped thinking for ourselves, we've stopped really doing mental assessment as to the who, what, when, how, and especially why. We've stopped asking questions such as why. We just sort of accepted it and moved on.
So you feel like Nicole Arbor, I mean, I do. I feel like she didn't do her homework. I really did. And I do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Charlie like, duh.
Yes.
Like, yeah. And I also feel like I feel like because she said on her Instagram Live, she said she did this video from her perspective and what she knows and what she sees women go through. And so, exactly. Say it louder for the ones in the back.
White women.
Because Nicole Arbor as a white woman, and I will say it, you know, and I keep saying that she's not American, but it matters. It matters that she's not American because slaves ran to the north to get free. They ran as far as Canada. They knew once they hit the Canadian border, they were good, right? We all knew that. We were taught that, most of us. There's a lot of black kids that don't know that now. That's another topic for another time. But, you know, so there are blacks in Canada. There's a plethora amount of blacks in Canada, but Canada didn't have the same amount of racism that America did. And so Nicole Arbor grew up maybe around black people, maybe not, but she didn't grow up in America. And so she didn't have her parents tell her, I don't know, maybe not, but she didn't grow up with the American history and the American background and influence that other white Americans have had. You know what I mean? So she didn't grow up around black people that had the black American experience. So for her to put out her perspective is fine. But for her to say that first of all, for her to say that this is America is wrong. Because it's not America. Not because I will say this, and I'll challenge it, and somebody can tell her, she can come bring her ass on this show. She doesn't know America. She doesn't know America. She knows what she saw on TV. She knows what she read in the history books, and then she knows what she came here and moved into. But she doesn't know America like we know America. And at this point, Nicole Arbor's too famous to know America like we know America. I mean, no offense, Charlie, you're a famous cosplayer, and Katana, you're a famous author. I'm just a regular old dude, but you know what I mean? Like, but for all our namesakes,
I'm not famous. I just like writing.
You're well known, but you're well known. But let's be reasonable. Let's take. I mean, but
everybody go Google me and what I like. Who is you?
but let's be real. So we all know Cutie Pie Sensei, right? Hashtag cosplay bae,
Yeah.
right? We all know Cutie Pie Sensei. We all know Yaya Han. Those are the celebrities in our culture, right? But like that's our higher echelon. But Nicole Arbor is higher than that. You know what I mean? And so she's so high, and I know she came from well-to-do. She said so, you know. She's so high up there that bringing her down to our level, she wouldn't even comprehend that. She wouldn't. So she can't say, this is America, because one, you don't know America like we know America. You don't know America like your women counterparts know America. But in the same token, you're so high up there that you can't even claim that. The reason why it works for Gambino is because Gambino was raised in Stone Mountain, Georgia. He knows this is America. As a black African-American male, black American male. I hate saying African American, but as a black American nerd, he knows what America is like for him. Gambino was there when white people didn't accept him because he was black. When black people didn't accept him because he was a nerd. When, you know, he had to deal with the racism that was in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Because I was raised in Stone Mountain, Georgia. I know all about that. Me and Gambino could have conversations all day about Stone Mountain Boulevard. I promise you.
I do not go there. Some stories. I'm like, nope.
So I guarantee me and Gambino can talk. You know what I mean? Like, we probably pass each other on the street maybe, but that's what I'm saying. Like, and he knows, you know, he knows the racism of the South. He knows the struggles of Black America. He knows that even though he's Childish Gambino, even though he's Lando Calrissian, OG, you know, he could walk down the street and still get a hey nigga. LeBron James, they spray painted the N-word on his mansion, and it's like, that's LeBron fucking James. But that just proves to you that, you know, as a black person, we know what it's like to come from nothing because that's the standard we were put at. Even the richest black person is still nothing to the average white person. And Nicole Arbor, being above average, will never know what it is like to come down to our level because one, she's not in an interracial relationship, nor does she have mixed race kids. And right there, that takes out any understanding she could possibly have. Two, for all her black friends, for all the black friends she has, because she wasn't raised in America, she doesn't understand the struggle that her black American friends will probably been through. She's like, oh, that sucks and that's not fair, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she can level with it. And she's not going to understand because she wasn't always raised here, which means she doesn't know the perspective of where we're coming from, I feel like. And if I'm wrong, somebody go get her, bring her on the show, and she can defend herself all day to the same panel of people that's sitting right here. But
looking forward to it.
Yeah, but I truly feel like Nicole Arbor missed her mark because her being Canadian and her not being American, her starting off middle class, upper middle class, we can't bring her to our level and be like, look, this is America, okay? And this is how America works, not just for black people, but for women. You know, this is the struggles that America went through, you know, when it came to voting rights, when it came to abortion, when it came to women getting jobs, when it came to women having equal rights, equal pay, when it came to Muslim women trying to find refuge here, when it came to Hispanic women coming here illegally trying to make a way for their kids and then getting deported because they're not from here but their kids are, so their kids go to foster care and then they get deported back to Mexico or Honduras or Panama or Colombia. You know, she didn't talk about the things going on in I mean, this is really narrow, this is kind of a narrow topic, but the things going on in Haiti and the Dominican and Jamaica and Cuba and the women having to suffer in those regards due to oppressive dictator like regimes. You know, she didn't talk about, you know, the sexual assault that happens on a regular basis. I don't want to say rape culture because people get triggered on both sides, and I don't want to have that conversation today. But you know, she didn't talk about the the struggles of sexual assault. She could have had an imagery in the background of girls being chained up and drugged, and girls being part of a chain gang and being dragged, as sex slaves. or women being abused, raped, and abused in prison, in the prison system. She could have went so deep, so easily. She didn't have to touch on Jim Crow like Gambino. She didn't have to touch on police brutality. She didn't have to touch on mass murderings. She could have
touched on things such as like menstrual periods, like just the time of the month for women, where it's condoms are free for men, but you got to pay 25 cents in the woman's bathroom just so that you cannot be embarrassed when you walk out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't talk about it.
And don't talk about it.
Absolutely.
You gotta look in the person's face and smile like, is everything all right? Yeah, I gotta go home. Bye. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you gotta like hint to it. Can't even like actual words. Excuse me.
Like we still can't have a comfortable conversation. And one thing I gotta point out, I gotta shout out this I don't know her actual name, but it's a woman. Her name, she calls herself Madge the Vag. I don't know if you've ever heard of her or whatnot, but it's this woman where she does these comedic YouTube videos, and she usually starts off by introducing the topic, and then she goes out in the street and she interviews random people off the street, random women off the street. Have you heard about this? Have you heard about that? Have you heard about yeast infections? Have you heard about pads that may have chemicals in it? She does her research. She goes to an actual doctor. She talks to the doctor. She finds, she asks questions. She finds solutions, and then she discusses those solutions to her audience.
Yeah.
To me, that's unique, and she does it in such a funny, comedic, informative way that you can't help but stop when she posts a new video and whatnot, because you like what she does, and you like the direction that she's going, and you like the creativity behind it. This that Nicole has done, like I said, I mean, we've been talking about it to death for almost an hour, but the point of the matter is that she could have gone about it in such a unique, creative way. When she first came out with her videos, she did her comedic videos in her own unique way. And then later on, she came out saying that, I battled depression and suicide and all of that. I think she did like a TED Talk or something where she talks about these issues. And that was one of the reasons why she started her YouTube video in the first place, which was kind of cool and neat. But now you sort of deviated from that because you're seeing more likes and you're getting less informative. And now you're riding on the coattails of someone whose video has garnered so much attention for the right reasons that you feel as though you can match that by not being original like you used to be. So to Nicole, if you're watching this, go back to your originality, go back to the drawing board and try and see if you can be, just deliver your message in a different way. Include everybody, not just from your own experiences, but go out there and actually talk to someone. Go out there and actually get people's personal experiences with their consent so that you can put it on your video in a way that is uniquely you. When you try and do it on somebody else's platform, and especially when you try and just leave everything out of it because you don't want to talk about it, if you are so comfortable going on your videos and talking about black dick and how much you love it, you should be just as comfortable talking about everybody else that doesn't include who is in relation to you and your image. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Charlie?
I mean, I agree. Like, there were so many things that were left out. It's ridiculous. Like, you were talking about birth control and stuff. Like, condoms are free, but then women have to do all these things, these IUDs. You got to take your birth control pills. You got to do this, that, and the other. And it's all these methods we can do that are so invasive and so many chemicals and blah, blah, blah. But I don't see any kind of, like, when are guys gonna get this birth control patch or whatever?
It's supposed to be soon.
It goes right into your arm and it does blah.
Look at
It's just doing a big surgery so that you won't get your body. Like, I don't see these men doing none of that.
Oh.
What happened to that? Or even
got a whole fan.
It got hot for a minute. I don't know. It got heated. It got heated.
Labor.
It got heated. Oh.
In labor, Black women die so much more frequently in labor than white women do. What about those issues? Like, people don't even know about those issues, and it's ridiculous. She touched on talking about women taking pills to feel better about themselves or whatever for mental illness or whatever it might be. And I know that in the past, like, women were really just like labeled as crazy or insane just because, like, emotions, we're scared of her, she has to have a lobotomy, you know, like something crazy. But then on top of the medications that I'm not so sure that minorities take as often, but maybe they do. Maybe, like you said before, maybe we just don't talk about it as often as white people talk about it. But even in that, in the medical field, all these medications are based off of tests for white men. Like, these are all things that are made to benefit white men. They don't do a lot of clinical trials on minorities. They don't do a lot of clinical trials on women. These are things that are meant to benefit white men. And then if it's specifically for women, it's white women. They aren't having these focus groups be for minorities. So all these medications that women are taking to help themselves, but what side effects do Black people have and minorities have? You know, there's like a separate branch to everything that's like, well, and then it's more horrible for us because we're minorities. And it's just felt like because she took Childish Gambino's platform and tried to duplicate it, and almost in a way like, we have it worse though, or like, but we still have it bad. Like, she's playing the who has it worse game.
Yeah.
And I hate that game. Because everybody has their shit, and who's the determining, like, who's making that determination? Who's saying, you're right, you do have it worse, ding, 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 ding. But on top of that, it's putting Black issues against women's issues, and it's not even touching on the, like, middle of the Venn diagram right there.
Yeah. She's not adding on to, she's taking away from.
Bad. Right. Women have it bad. Black men have it bad. Wow, where are those Black women who get to talk about things? You know, like, where's all that?
And you guys,
like, I have a question. No,
not you.
And Black women often get left out of conversations like this. Like, I appreciate Gambino for including Black women in his video, and not to trash Gambino, the godchild that he is, but I mean, he also didn't go into Black women's issues. Yes, he encompassed the Black culture, and we all suffer through what he was talking about, but even he didn't really hit on the Sandra Blands, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't really touch on the issues that Black women have as heavily as he did, you know, as he should have, as heavily as he should have, you know. And a lot of times Black women, no, I'm not all the time, Black women, y'all go unnoticed. Y'all go unheard, unnoticed, and undefended. And you know, it's only right that, you know, you guys feel enraged. Like, you know, and this is another conversation for another time, but Black women are outraged that Gambino has a white wife. I mean, I kind of understand why he does, but then I'd get bashed for saying so for people who don't understand, you know,
I feel like
their
you
culture.
said that, and then you said, we're not going to talk about this too long, but I'm going to.
No, but I feel like, but the reason why I mention that is because, like, I feel like, you know, like, there are Black women coming for Gambino, just like there are Black women coming for Nicole Arbor, but, you know, rightly so on Nicole, you know, because they're getting on Gambino for his white wife, but rightly so on Nicole because, you know, Gambino encompassed all Black people, but Nicole tried to encompass women. And you can't say all women when you only have white woman issues or white skin toned women's issues. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. You know, Black women always get overlooked and passed over. And then people are like, well, why the fuck are they so mad? I don't understand it. They're just like, they're like us, right? No, it's different. It's vastly different. And for people who aren't educated, they don't know. I was raised by a single mom. And oh man, I got mad every night. I can't believe what these people did to me today or how they treated me. But then, like, I never heard a Black man complain about it. Like, a Black man be like, man, he called me a nigga today. But, like, that's as far as it went. Like, he called me a nigga. But my mom had, like, a plethora of complaints. And I'm like, damn, is life that hard for you? Like, I'm thinking my life is going to be that hard because her life is that hard. But as an adult, I know now that her life was hard because she was a black woman. And nobody looks at that and says, maybe they need a voice too. And I remember, and you know, wrapping up my point here, when I first saw Nicole's video, I was like, I want to like it, but I hate it. I wanted to like it, but I hated it. And I was talking to myself, like, why do we hate this? What's wrong with this? These are issues that women go through, but why don't we like it? And the first thing out of my mouth was, I hate that it was a white woman that did it. That's the first, and I know that sounds mad, like, whoa, that's fucked up to say, that's racist. No, because I feel like I said, had it been any race but a white woman, I would have accepted this video. And I think everybody feels that way. And it's not because Nicole Arbor is white and had a decent idea. It's the fact that the moment the video started, you knew it was going to be about white people.
Yeah.
And had she been Hispanic, had she been Asian, had she been Native American, you knew that the video was going to be solid. But because she was white, I think that's what messed up the video, was the fact that white people are only going to talk on their perspective. Now, that's not always true, but normally it's true. And Nicole Arbor being who she is, she was only going to envelop. She was only going to be able to envelop that white perspective. And that's the problem.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of have to disagree on that one because how to put this? So if a Hispanic woman had done it, you know, we have to remember that there are varying shades when it comes on to the Latino culture, you know, Latino Hispanic culture. And from the little bit that I know, I can't say that I am like the expert in anything, you know, pertaining to such, but from the little bit that I know when it comes on to the Latino / Hispanic culture, you only see one type of Hispanic woman or one type of Latina. And it's always a white to medium skin toned person on TV. You rarely see the Afro-Latino or the Afro-Latina. You rarely see that.
True.
You know, and so going back to what you were saying, like, for me personally, it could have been a black woman who did it. It could have been a white woman who did it. It could have been a Hispanic person who did it. It could have been a person from the Middle East who did it. It could have been an Asian that did it. I don't care what your skin tone is that, you know, would cause you to have an idea of making something that pertains to women's rights. That doesn't apply. What applies is how you use your mind to deliver the message. It's the mindset behind it. Because when we're born, we don't have any control over our skin tone. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
But the cultural experiences that we are subjected to as soon as we're placed into this world, the type of information that we choose to sort of place in our brain and sort of learn and integrate within our systems and in our mind, bodies, and soul, and what we choose to X out speaks volumes on how you move forward with every single ideal and creative aspect of your life. So if a black woman came and she's like, you know what, I'm going to make something about women's rights and just included just black women, I would still have a problem with that, because you're still saying that you're still using the same monocle of all women, but you're only including just your race.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The same thing would go for Afro-Latina. If she were to make a video, but she's just including just her people that look just like her and nothing having to deal with like Afro-Latinos or, you know, anything that encompasses something that has similar cultural experiences to her, but she's excluding them because it doesn't look like her. So it doesn't matter to me what your skin tone is. It matters to me how your mindset is. And if your mindset is incorrect, you better get it correct before you put it out there on social media, on the internet, because what's on the internet stays on the internet for life. It ain't coming off.
So Charlie, last thought, what do you think?
Kind of to address that, I feel like if any other race made the video for women's rights, nobody would assume they thought they were talking about everyone, I guess. Like, I feel like if it was all black women in that video and a black woman did that, then everyone would be like, yeah, she's talking about black women issues. And nobody would think that she thought she was talking about everyone. Because I feel like we know better, and that's a horrible statement to make. But like, I feel like these ideas are just like drilled into our head. We're like, we're speaking for us, and like thinking of all the different things other people could be thinking. Whereas I feel like white women are completely oblivious, just white people in general, probably completely oblivious to what their words or actions like are, what the results could be for a lot of them, not all white people, but like that's why there are so many insensitive comments and so many white people going, I'm not a racist, but and then say something racist, because there's no consequences for those actions. So her making this video and thinking she's talking about all women because she doesn't know better, and she also doesn't know enough to care, and she's allowed to not care, because the only thing that's hitting her in the face is Black people saying, why are you doing this? And then her going, I don't have to care about you, like I don't have to care. Whereas a Black woman making that video, and everybody jumping down her throat suddenly, like the police bust in, like we have all these reactions to us and all these consequences for our actions.
Yeah. Whereas
white people typically don't have that many consequences for theirs. So it's like she doesn't have to care. She doesn't have to educate herself, and she can believe she's talking about everybody, and she'll just keep going with that. Whereas I feel like somebody of a different race wouldn't feel like they are talking for everybody. So I don't feel like I'd have a problem with somebody of a different race making that video, because I feel like everyone would assume they're talking about their own circumstances. And as a Black woman, I feel like we would be talking about women's issues that are issues for everyone plus our issues, it wouldn't be, these are just white lady issues. No, it'd be like, these are issues for women, plus here's also minority issues, and here's my personal issues, and surprise, a plethora of issues. Wonderful. And I don't know, I just feel like white people can't have everything. Just don't try to take the things we have. Like, why do you get to have everything? Why do you, like, I see you guys doing this, so I'm gonna do it. I also want to wear a feathered headdress, but it's fashionable. Like, no, can you please just, like you said earlier, culture vulture. Like, why? You don't have to have everything. You don't have to take everything. And also, I really badly wanted to comment when you were talking about Childish Gambino, because I didn't see necessarily any Black women who were complaining about the relationship itself. And a lot of times I think we get confused when we're talking about Black men with white women. The frustration with that is not, a lot of times, I'm going to speak for me because I can only speak for me, is not a frustration with a Black man being with a white woman. It's not a frustration with an interracial relationship. It's a frustration with the system and Black women being the forgotten group of people. We are the lowest percentage who's being checked for, and that's just like facts, like we are left to take care of kids and be single moms and do this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go get me a Becky, and it's in all kinds of entertainment, just like it's the norm. Like, it's in rap songs, it's in whatever else. You find yourself a white girl and then you're good, like, and then you're chill. You don't have to deal with somebody yelling at you all the time. And white girls are like the best, like, go get you a white girl because this girl is driving you crazy. Like, we have to hear that all the time too. And it's not negative towards Black men, because Black men are like, yeah, okay, I don't care. But for Black women, it's just constantly bashing us, and it's bashing from Black men. And so I don't think a lot of people had an issue with Childish Gambino's relationship with a white woman. It was his quote telling people, let's be honest, find you a white girl, because they're the only ones who are going to care about this stuff. But I got to tell you, it's kind of equivalent how many white girls are into nerdy shit as Black girls. But the difference being how many white girls have the ability to be themselves when they want to. Like, when were you allowed to be a nerd as a Black man? Like, and that's a man. How many white women are allowed to do whatever they want to without any consequence. Those white women, they had issues coming out as a nerd also. Like, oh no, girl gamers are not accepted. But white women and Asian women were accepted into that culture well before Black women, because again, we are forgotten. And again, we do not feel comfortable being in our own skin. So him making that statement was not only bashing Black women and encouraging Black men to find a white woman if you're a nerd, but it's also discrediting Black women who are nerds.
But it's also going back to the main point too. It's why Nicole Arbor feels that she can do that video and get away with it, because like you said, like they're comfortable in their own skin. Nobody's checking for Nicole Arbor except us. Like nobody's checking her about this issue right now except us. It's us that's checking her about it. Nobody's telling her that maybe she should have reconsidered or rethought it, because the only people that she has against us is us, and because a lot of Black people don't really like, a lot of Black people coming for her don't like, it's not reciprocating to her why it's wrong. You know, we're telling her, hey, you're a culture vulture, hey, you're appropriating. And what we really mean is you didn't have enough representation in your video for what you claim it stood for. But she's used to, but at this point, she's so used to hearing that she's a culture vulture and an appropriator and a colonizer that she's even ignoring the common sense logic now, because nobody else is going to check for her but us. And if we're checking for her and no one else, she can just, like you said, she can dismiss us because she's comfortable. She has no consequences that she has to worry about, and she can drive on and not have to worry about it. Next video, we'll all forget about the bullshit she posted, and next video, in a month or two, she'll post another video, and we'll be like, ha ha, he, Nicole Arbor. She'll go online, she'll go to Instagram, she'll post half naked a couple of times and get a couple likes, and people will forget that she even made this video. So it's that simple, you know, because she has no real consequences. Even when she went on The View, and you know, Whoopi Goldberg and them tried to tell her like, hey, look, man, this is not cool. She was like, well, I'm just a comedian, and you know, people are just too sensitive and they need to get over themselves. And that was her whole argument the whole time. And everybody on The View except Raven Simone was a comedian, and they were like, no, look, there's levels to this shit. And she's like, no, well, I'm just doing me and ha he. And she was deflecting and negating and ignoring, you know, and Whoopi Goldberg eventually just dismissed her because I guess, you know, her time slot was up. But that's a reflection of her nature, and those that she represents. Maybe it's, you know, that's a bit blanketed, yes. But let's be real. It's like you said, well, I'm not a racist, and they don't think twice. And that's why Donald Trump can say random crazy shit, and people be like, what the fuck? And everybody else will be like, oh, it's just Trump, you know, because they don't have to be held accountable for their actions.
Yeah.
But we've been here an hour and 25. We got a dip. Ladies, I appreciate it. Facebook Live. This is Katana, Charlie Rocket. It's your boy Johnny D, a.k.a. Jonathan D'Angelo, a.k.a. Johnny D. I hope we were entertaining for you guys.